Our goal is to get as many folks who would like to provide a comment the ability to do so. And so as you come up to the microphone, we'll have someone that's going to take your ticket from you, so that way we know that everyone who wanted to provide a comment has been given the opportunity to do so. And then we'll pick this up again later on this afternoon. Bill, I don't know if you want to say anything, but so why don't we go ahead and get started, and we'll start on this side.
Thank you. My name is Brother David Andrews. Oh, I do have a ticket. I do have it in one of my pockets. I'll just give this and give it to you. I do have one. I'm here reading the statement of a grower who not only couldn't, was afraid to come as well as afraid to speak. So I'm speaking on behalf of someone else. First of all, let me give a word of gratitude for all the time that you have dedicated to this process. You and your time is greatly appreciated. And from a grower's perspective, I want to assert that the system is broken. The current system is one that favors the integrators and allows for the manipulation of outcomes to growers, primarily through the tournament system. While the lack of competition creates one set of problems, the tournament system creates another set. It takes money from the growers and gives it to another group. The grower has no control over the quality of the feed that gets delivered, nor how much of each type is delivered. Another component to the cost equation is the chick cost. The integrator has complete control of the quality of the chicks delivered to the farm. Another form of manipulation is to exclude the best growers and worst growers in the average cost calculation. Another aspect of the tournament system is related to time between flocks. The tournament system benefits the integrators when farms similar in performance sell in the same week. This is easily achieved by manipulating out times and grouping similarly performing farms. The tournament system that is common in the poultry industry is the only example that I know of that has the employees growers subsidizing the success of the employers. Thank you.
Okay, why don't we start over here? And if you can introduce, if you can mention what your name is too, that's helpful. Thank you.
Huh? It's unnecessary? Okay. No. I'll give it to you as soon as I think Ruth has it.
Go ahead.
Mr. Butler, poultry growers, and other interested parties. My name is Tom Green, and I'm a former Coffee County, Alabama poultry grower. Before that, I had a dual military career. I was an infantryman, and I was served in the aviation branch as a pilot. I flew combat missions in Vietnam and also served as a public affairs officer at the Army Aviation Center until my wife and I went into the poultry growing business in 1990. I was 52 years old at the time. We were both excited about going into a new business totally different from anything in our past. Poultry fit our plan that would take us into our golden years. We invested a little more than $500,000 to build 4 500-foot poultry houses on our 90 acres of land just south of Enterprise. And we depended entirely on company advice and the SBA and our bankers. The SBA financed, or didn't finance, but they guaranteed our loan. As frequent problems arose repetitively, we sought advice from other growers and over time formed a cooperative that gave us better prices on supplies and equipment and all growers' needs that we could fill outside of the company influence so that we would bring our prices down. It also served as a forum in which growers could come together, discuss issues, and express solutions. We communicated with the USDA, packers and stockers, to initiate investigations of irregular suspect integrator activities. We appealed to the DOJ's Antitrust Division on issues. I had one substantive complaint forwarded to the DOJ from packers and for an action review. It was returned to me 14 months later without action. As a cooperative, we participated in workshops to explore ways to improve our company-grower relations. Contract equity was our primary goal. Our contracts continue to be written on a flock-to-flock basis and could be terminated by either party with a 10-day notice for any reason or no reason at all. These contracts were written at the grower's expense for equipment, trial and error housing upgrades, and no regard for compensation to offset expenses. In October 1995, Hurricane Opal blasted through Alabama and took out a large number of poultry farms. Many of the more vulnerable older farms were totaled. This gave the integrators an opportunity to bring new projects on, which they vigorously pursued. Along with the expansion of new farms, our integrator demanded upgrades to tunnel ventilation and new equipment for the older farms, for the natural ventilated farms, which at that time would have been a $100,000 upgrade to our debt load. Our new contracts containing upgrade requirements also contained a demand for growers to sign mandatory arbitration in order to settle any disputes that may come up. Any grower not signing the arbitration clause by January 15, 1996 would be terminated and would not receive chickens. This I also brought to the attention of packers and stockers, and they sent somebody down to investigate, and it resulted in nothing. But
sir, if we can, we're going to try to make sure we get everyone as possible.
Okay, I've got one paragraph left.
But in our next round of comments, we're going to try to get as many people, so you might be able to take another crack at it. But we just want to make sure that everyone who has came here has had at least one chance. So,
okay. This was the straw that broke the camel's, or about this camel's back, and Ruth and I talked about it at length about the principles, about what was happening to us. We talked to lawyers, packers, Birmingham, SBA, everybody. Nobody could help. We were not allowed to sell our houses, and we were not allowed to go with any of the other companies of the three that were working in our area. Ruth and I chose to stand our principles. We did not give up a fundamental right to access a public court of law, and which is guaranteed by our Constitution, regardless of the price. I had flown too many combat missions defending that Constitution to forfeit it. It was truly ironic that in protecting one right, we lost another. We lost the right to property. We lost 77 acres, 4 outstanding poultry facilities, and 5 years of hard work. It was sold for $177,000 salvage. We were denied our right to property by a company acting unconscionably, and in my military mind, they were criminally acting. Thank you.
My name is Craig Watts. I've been a contract poultry producer since 1992. I'm careful not to use the term independent because I do not feel today that we're independent. I feel like we're more of a captive supplier. The competition on the production end as it relates to us, the growers, does not exist. It does not exist. We have no voice in an industry that we're so heavily invested in. Growers mortgage farms and homes based on the assumption that the relationship with the poultry company will be long-term and mutually beneficial. But what we get is a growing agreement with no security at all. Contracts can be terminated at any time for any reason, and as growers we have no recourse. Contracts can be changed at any time for any reason. And we're, forced to sign a contract whether we like it or not on a take it or leave it basis because, we can either sign it or face bankruptcy. It's almost like asking the question, would you rather drown or burn? Either way, it's not a good way to go. Another major issue is a method of compensation, which this has been beat to death, but it's called the ranking system or the tournament system. I've heard it called a reward system when it's actually the grandest Ponzi scheme that's ever been invented. Timing is everything. What you get, who you get, when you get it, has more to do than any managerial decisions that I'll ever make, and also influences my compensation. The ranking system serves as a cost control method for the companies. That's what it boils down to. It's no reward system for a grower. They say, well, it's the bad growers that come out here and do complaining. I got proof different. For what it's worth, I'm a very above average grower, but I see the faults in it. For me to make it up here, somebody's getting hoodoo down here. That's the way I see it. Anybody in this room knows that there's no such thing as a level playing field. The inputs, there's just too many variables. Quality of chicks, quality of feed, the feed deliveries, and the beat just goes on. The stuff that's outside of our control is almost endless. That is irrefutable. But when they want to compensate us, they pretend we got a level playing field. All I ask you to do, it's Congress, is prohibit poultry companies from being able to cancel our contracts just arbitrarily. I ask the USDA and the Department of Justice to declare the ranking system unfair and deceptive. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Norm Ranger from Idabel, Oklahoma. I'm a former poultry farmer of 22 years. I grew chickens for a large Arkansas multinational company. This hearing is a monumental event for growers in America. As a poultry grower, I spoke out about the unfairness of the contracting system through state and national poultry organizations and any media that would listen. Several pieces of state and national legislation were introduced over the last 3 decades, only to be stifled by lobbyists for big chicken. Numerous complaints were filed by me and many others to the Packers and Stockyards Administration, but to no avail. Growers were told that the PSNA has no teeth to enforce legitimate claims of the many injustices inflicted upon growers, as is David against Goliath. 15 years ago, I secretly recorded the broiler pay clerk telling me how I and members of the Oklahoma Contract Poultry Growers Association were targeted and how my grower pay was manipulated for trying to bring about change to an unfair contracting system. This sound recording was turned over to the PSNA at that time. We were told that the DOJ, Department of Justice, was understaffed and only went after the big stuff. Recently, 50 poultry growers from southeast Oklahoma filed a lawsuit against a giant poultry company from Arkansas for fraud, negligence, and violation of the Oklahoma Consumer Protection Act. Groups of 7 growers at a time are scheduled for separate trials over the course of the next several months. The first trial ended in April with the first group being awarded $8.3 million. Punitive damages were awarded against the company. And by the way, my secret recording of 15 years earlier was used as evidence in this trial. Question: why are some of our land-grant universities advocating for the large poultry farms? Right here today we have a PhD that'll be on this panel after a while that testified for the giant Arkansas Corporation in the Oklahoma trial from Oklahoma State University. I thought land-grant universities were supposed to research and teach prospective ag producers viable methods to produce food and fiber as to receive a fair and equitable return on investment. Why are PhDs testifying for big corporations against the growers? The poultry farming business is misaligned. We need your help to level the playing field. I would like to say thank you to the Secretary of Agriculture and the U.S. Attorney General and all these other officials for hearing the concerns of farmers across America. Thank you.
My name is Rudy Howell, and I'm thankful y'all for listening to us, but I have grown birds 15 years, and I am very concerned about the payment system that being based on true competition. Grower pay can be easily manipulated by the company. For instance, incorrect feed deliveries, incorrect feed weights, inaccurate bird count, and easily changing documentation, all of which affect growers' ranking and pay. I feel like the USDA and Department of Justice should take aggressive action to enforce the law against unfair and deceptive trade practices and acknowledge the current pay system is unfair and deceptive. Thank you.
My name is Lamar Jackson. I've been growing poultry for 30 years, and I'd like to thank you people for coming here today, you distinguished guests. I could spend all my time thanking you for just being here. It's a great pleasure to have somebody to listen to us. We as growers appreciate your concerns for our well-being and becoming successful growers in these United States. Integrators in general want everything left alone. They want no new laws to interfere with their business as usual policy as they have it now. The system is definitely a broken one in extreme need of repair. This administration has an opportunity to help individual growers who supply our nation, as well as other nations, with a healthy food product, poultry. We need the USDA and packers and stockers to mandate policies that enable our already existing enforcers, along with the Department of Justice, to be able to rigidly enforce and prohibit mandatory upgrades on housing and equipment that are totally unnecessary to the cost-effective production of poultry in this country. These upgrades require countless more hours of kilowatt energy to produce these birds to market. Keeping a grower in constant debt gives the integrators assurance that these growers will have to continue to grow poultry for them. This eliminates competition and thus makes their stronghold on growers evident. Let me say that numerous growers are not attending these workshops because of being afraid of retaliation on them by their integrator. A grower this morning has already been threatened by his service person if he attends and speaks at this forum. All the integrator has to do is make sure that a particular grower receives inferior chicks to start a grow out with and maybe short his feed delivery, which can lead to a higher feed conversion rate. This happens, really it does. This is the type of undue fair practices that need to be addressed now. Our payment ranking schedule is also totally unfair. On a farm the size of mine, which is 108,000 broilers, my paycheck in a 5-week grow-out period can vary as much from $22,000 gross down to $11,000 for the same amount of chickens. This makes it impossible to meet financial obligations and be able to plan any future endeavors. Please enforce the laws already in place by giving the USDA and packer stockers real authority to do their jobs in order to help us and this industry. Thank you very much for your time.
Hold on just a minute. Alan, this is Alan Christian, my deputy.
Yes,
I want you to tell him about who got threatened. Not right here. Just go back and tell him
Okay,
what the deal
I sure
is.
will. And I did say this one more time. I've been doing this for 30 years. It might be just 31 because I'm gone too, but that's okay.
Box, the lack of competition in a given geographic region has led to the integrators with all of the bargaining power. This leaves the grower with little or no choice. The grower is given a contract that is one-sided, is a take or leave situation. Companies should not have that much control in a region. DOJ and USDA need to do everything possible to limit this type of power. Because of this power, numerous unfair and deceptive practices have developed. For example, the ranking system, forced upgrades, contracts that can be changed or canceled at any time, compensation that has not kept up with increases of energy, material costs. These are all signs of a broken system that needs to be corrected as soon as possible. Thank you.
I am Rodney Stoltz from the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, and I want to thank you for taking time to listen to my comments. I'm here to share my experience with contract poultry production. In 1979, I bought a 2-house poultry farm, contracting with a major chicken company. The income from the farm was enough to allow me to pay labor and my bank note. Things were going so well that in 1992, I decided to build 2 additional houses. After 5 years, I was required to perform company upgrades to all 4 houses. During this time, operating expenses were on the rise, but pay from the chicken company was not being increased. Now I have an increased bank note along with increasing expenses, but my income has remained static. My plans for early retirement began to evaporate. After a couple of years operating in this manner, I came to the realization that I was never going to pay for these new houses. This is a common cycle that chicken farmers are trapped in. Does that matter? Does it matter what state or region you're in? No. That's why today is so important. We need the USDA and Department of Justice to stop requiring growers to install expensive upgrades in their poultry houses at their own expense. And Congress should stop poultry companies from canceling grower contracts without adequate pause, unless they reimburse growers for the investment they made to service the contract. Thank you for your time.
My name is Frank Morrison. I am an ex-contract poultry grower from Maryland. Our contract was terminated 2 years ago due to not upgrading to the company standards. One of the major challenges facing contract growers is the ranking system. I have an example which happened to us. I could purchase propane for 30% cheaper than what the poultry company was charging us. When I informed the company I was going to purchase and supply my own propane, as any independent business person would, I was told if I did, my contract would be terminated. Even if we wanted to be competitive, the company will not let us. This contract system has taken away the entrepreneurial spirit of the farmer, who has for decades found ways to reduce costs on their farms to stay in business. The USDA and DOJ need to take aggressive action and enforce the law against unfair and deceptive trade practice by the poultry companies. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Ruddle. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today regarding the current situation as a poultry grower. I became a poultry grower 4 years ago. I did this in an attempt to save a family farm that was in the process of foreclosure due to an unfair contract. That resulted in my elderly in-laws' birds being cut off without notice on the day of delivery because they refused to make expensive and unnecessary upgrades. The problem has turned out to be an industry-wide issue. Regardless of who you grow for or what type of bird you raise, I have learned that a contract is a contract in name only. Mine was supposed to be a 5-year contract. It has changed 4 times in as many years. Integrators routinely rewrite these so-called contracts to their benefit whenever they see fit and depend on the fact that the grower is deep in debt and will sign them out of fear in order to continue getting chicks. I thank God my husband and I have non-farm jobs. Without them, we could not afford paying out of our pocket to raise chickens. We will not be able to continue this much longer. The solution to this systemic problem, the USDA, along with the Department of Justice, must exercise their power and stop these unfair contracts now. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is William Kramer, and I work for the Interfaith Center on Corporate Responsibility. We are a faith-based membership organization whose investor members own $110 billion in shares in companies like Tyson, Smithfield, and Hormel. Our members come from a variety of faiths: Methodists, Baptists, Episcopalians, Catholics, and many others. In addition to owning shares in major meat companies, restaurants, and food distributors, our members also manage large healthcare systems that buy a lot of food. Our members are increasingly concerned about the conditions under which their food is produced. They are especially concerned about fair treatment of poultry growers and chicken processing workers. We believe strongly that contract poultry growers are the backbone of the rural economy in the South. When they are paid low prices, they make poverty wages, and that hurts rural communities. We also feel that the industry is currently structured as unfair to workers. The lack of competition in poultry processing means companies can violate workers' basic rights and disregard health and safety. As a result, worker turnover at poultry plants averages about 100% a year. We need good jobs in rural areas in the South, and this industry isn't providing them. There is enough money in the supply chain for everyone to get a fair share, but we need to enforce regulations that promote fair competition so mega corporations like Walmart and Tyson don't take more than their fair share. The poultry processing the United States of America was founded on the principles of freedom and free enterprise. Without fair competition, we do not have true freedom or free enterprise. The poultry processing industry in America is increasingly monopolized, and that is un-American. Our organization and people of faith around the country are watching these hearings and other efforts to restore competition and fairness to food and agriculture in America. We hope to see better enforcement of our existing laws and more effective regulations coming out of these hearings. For people of faith gathered here today, I ask you to consider the following questions. If Jesus were here today, what would he say about grower fairness and worker justice? Who would he support? Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you for hearing our concerns and hope you're compassionate. My name's Angie Tyler, and I'm the only grower here from Louisiana, so I proudly represent every one of them. It's been a tough year for us. My husband and I have been raising broilers for 20 years now, and as I said, I'm the only one here from our state. But, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. And this is not one producer. This is not one integrator. This is nationwide. And the decisions that y'all make here today and in the weeks to come, months to come, even years to come, can be remembered by the whole agricultural community historically. This has never been done before. And what we feel is that the USDA must take action immediately on any unfair practices. The poultry farmers in our country on the brink of collapse. The ranking system of payment is obsolete, it's broken, and it needs to be changed. There's too much room there for manipulation, and there's no checks and balances whatsoever. And because costs have far exceeded the pay raises, producers cannot pay their bills. They can't pay the production costs. Energy has increased so many times more than the pay has increased, and many times the pay has gone down. The USDA needs to enforce laws already in place and investigate these unfair practices. Poultry remains the most economical and healthy source of protein in our country. As the demand in domestic and foreign markets increase, along with the population, our poultry production has to increase also. The farmers are absolutely mandatory for this, and we must ensure not only survival, but the potential for success and progress. That's our future, and we're relying on you for that help to make sure that we can stay in business and do our jobs and do it right. And we want to do that job in a marketplace that is fair. It's our future. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Sanders. I'm with United Food and Commercial Workers. On behalf of my president and the thousands of members in my local union in Kentucky and Southern Indiana, the dozens of people wearing gold shirts in this room, my brothers and sisters, and literally 250,000 poultry workers across America, we want to ask you to pay special attention to the needs of folks who kill, cut, and process chickens. We're here about competition in issues in agriculture, but agriculture is nothing without consumers and, of course, retailers. So pressure on growers and vendors, producers, and us, all across the industry, come from the margins that are dictated by retailers. I don't mind naming names. I'm talking about Walmart. Until we get some grip on the control that major retailers like Walmart have in this industry, we won't get anywhere. Walmart is, of course, not the only grocer in this industry, but all grocers are taking their cues from America's largest grocer, Walmart. In competition, we all know the word monopoly, the control whenever one supplier has a grip on the industry. But I want us to learn a new word today. It's monopsony. Monopsony is the tyranny of the retailer, when all roads and all product goes to one place, and that's Walmart. We have to do something about that. Because until we do something about Walmart and its pressures on agriculture margins, we really won't get anywhere at all. For our people, for my members in my industry, we can't make a living wage until Walmart is able to pay the companies more. That's just a fact. It's reality. There's so much pressure on margins that everybody's getting squeezed. And for our folks, black, white, Hispanic, just doing their best to make a living wage, that'll never get any better until we get some improvement in the way that Walmart has a grip on the industry. So I'm here today on behalf of 200,000 poultry workers and more. Please do something to put real competition in retail so we can all survive and thrive. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andy Stone. I'm from Mississippi. I got a couple of comments to make on some stuff I heard here today before I get started reading my statement. One of the things that was mentioned here today was communication was a problem in the industry. I can assure you not. I've had a lot of communication with my integrator, sometimes at arm length, sometimes at nose length. Nothing changed when I left. And y'all's challenge here today is to listen to us communicate to y'all, but if y'all do like the integrator, when I leave, if y'all don't do anything, we're not any better off today than we were yesterday. When I started growing chickens in 1995, I bought land and moved 60 miles from where I grew up. I moved to the broiler capital of my state. I did this thinking that I had a reason, that if I had a reason to switch from one integrator to another, I could. After a few months into the business, I realized that the integrators have an unwritten pact with their sister integrators. You don't take our growers, and we won't take yours. I built 3 modern, tunnel-ventilated houses, equipped them with all the bells and whistles available and approved by the integrator. I had a 15-year note on a $300,000 loan, but my contract was good for 1 year. I remember expressing my concern to a company representative and being told, don't worry about that. We will always need chickens. That's just how things are done. 6 months into my first year, their representative came out and said that the company was offering a raise. I said, wow, that's good. 6 months into the business and already they're going to give me a raise? However, there was a small stipulation attached to this raise. To get the raise, I had to add equipment to my houses. I told the representative, I don't want to add equipment to my houses, they're new. He said, fine. If you don't add the equipment, you won't qualify for the raise. So I added the equipment. My problem is that there is no guarantee that my integrator will continue to contract with me. As a result, raising chickens involves a tremendous sense of insecurity. This past February, I received a letter from my integrator stating, and I quote, if you fail to provide the proper environment, we may not be in a position to place birds in your care in the future. I received this letter because my service representative noticed several blind birds on my farm. At the time of the letter, my overall ranking was in the top 14%. Since that time, my overall ranking has climbed to put me in the top 10% of the company. Yet I have to wonder from one flock to the next if my company will be in a position to put birds in my care. This insecurity hangs over my head each day that I grow chickens. You could argue this and say no one's job is secure in today's economy. But the situation is not the same. Your job is a job. My job is a job with a huge debt attached to it. With my debt load coupled with my standing in the company, I should not have to worry about the company being in a position to place birds in my care. The situation in contract poultry growing is out of control. The companies have so much power that growers always end up at a disadvantage. It's time for the government to step up and rein in these companies so that growers are treated more fairly. That's why the hearing today is so important. But a hearing isn't enough. We need the USDA and Department of Justice to stop poultry companies from requiring growers to install expensive upgrades in the poultry houses at their own expense. And Congress should stop poultry companies from canceling growers' contracts without adequate cause unless they reimburse the growers for the investments they've made to service the contract. Thank y'all.
My name is Bruce Falk. I'm from Fairmont, North Carolina, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. In an effort to remain within the time allotted me, I would like to address the quality of birds that are supplied to me by my integrator. In my experience of 16 years, if I am supplied with a good quality input, I am able to grow a good quality chicken. If the quality of the chicks is poor, we are unable to produce enough weight to pay the bills. We work harder with a poor flock than we do with a good flock. Under the current ranking system, this can significantly impact our overall income. The ranking system is just unfair and needs to be corrected immediately. I would like to see the USDA, along with the DOJ, use the tools already available to them to stop this unfair pay system immediately. Thank you.
My name is Sheila. I would like to say that we really enjoy the chicken business and the company we grow for, but we would like to see a few changes to be made. We would like the ranking system to be different because of the unfairness of it. Your rank could depend on the quality of chicks, age of your houses being premium or not. We cannot control the quality of chicks we get because of such things as diseases, the handling of the eggs, and the delivery of the chicks. And things can go wrong, not being the farmer's fault, but at the end of the batch we are asked what went wrong. Why did certain things happen, such as the chicks did not grow, they did not put on weight, or you lost a lot? And then it starts. You need to upgrade to premium so you can do better. We try to explain that upgrades cost money, which we do not have, and their solution to the upgrade is so that you will get the incentive pay, which is a half a cent more per pound, which will not pay the loan back for the upgrade in a reasonable amount of time. And with the chicks being the companies, we would like to see the company contribute more than just 2 incentive chicks per year for the propane, which is greatly appreciated if you fall in the right time frame. The farmer has to take care of the litter, and we have to do the PLT, the PWT, the sawdust or rice hulls, except for 2 loads per house per year. The utilities such as gas, propane, diesel, electricity, water, supplies, and maintenance. It would be nice if the company would help more and give a cost of living raise, since we have not had a raise in about 3 years or more. But that does not stop the rising prices of the gas and the diesel, the propane, electricity, and supplies. My husband and I have had to go to our banker several times to try to get a solution to keep paying our loan and our bills from batch to batch. And the banker has said to us he does not know how we have survived and how we are making it. Now we are trying to reduce our loan just to make it. And we are just trying to pay our bills and the credit cards off from the propane. Again, I would like to stress as to how much we enjoy the chicken business, and we would like to see the USDA and the Department of Justice declare the ranking system as an unfair system and to stop poultry companies from requiring growers to install expensive upgrades in their poultry houses at our expense.
Yes, my name is James Shackelford, and I'm here representing the RWDSU Workers of America, and it's an honor to be here today before you. You know, after working 18 years in the poultry facility, poultry plant, chicken plant, you know, and the things that you see go on and people are talking about is not enough, you're not making this, you're not making this. It's just a blessing for me to be here to see both sides of it, because I never knew, you know, this side of it. Was granted to be a union representative 3 years ago, and now I see the other side, and that's why I'm here today. And it's not about I. It's we. It's a team thing. There's no I in team, because you have the growers, you have the producers, you have the packers, you have the laborers, and the laborers, you know, come to stand in the gap for the laborers today, because without the laborers, well, then you have no product. I mean, you know, the worker, they put it on the market, and then we're also consumers. All of us are. You know, I just left a restaurant just a minute ago, and they couldn't keep enough of it on the bar, you know. So it's not a shortage of it. We just got to figure out and get an understanding where the monies, you know, to fairly distribute the monies I'm here today to stand in the gap for my workers, because without it, you're not going to have, I heard a guy say today about vision for your child, the grower. I understand that. But also the worker have a vision also. And their vision is to want their kids to work in a poultry plant and make a decent living. And, after working 30 years in a poultry plant, leave with a decent pension where you can enjoy a decent life, but not to automatically write the worker off, because the worker do play an important part also. So I pray that God bless the producer and God bless the packer, because when you guys get together and you can come together in peace, then it makes it great for the worker. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tommy Hyde. I'd like to comment on the systemic problem that the poultry industry has within intimidation to the grower. I have spoken to numerous growers about attending this meeting, but most of them were afraid to come for fear of retribution from their poultry company. As growers, we have invested everything we own in this business. The industry does not treat the grower as a contractual partner with the company. We are merely someone hired to take care of the birds for them. You have to do as you are told, or you will be refused placement of birds, or could face a drop in the number of birds placed, or worse. We need there to be more oversight from the USDA, Department of Justice, or help from Congress, and more enforcement of the Packers and Stockyard Act. There is a lack of competition from the companies for the growers in the business now, and therefore no incentive to change the behavior toward the grower. There should be mutual give and take and mutual respect as business partners. I would like to say thanks to the growers here today for taking this opportunity to show support for this workshop and a chance to be counted in our hope to change this industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Etka. I'm Legislative Coordinator for the Campaign for Contract Agriculture Reform. Poultry is arguably the most broken of agricultural markets, where the processor sector has such total domination that producers are coerced not only to sign one-sided take-it-or-leave-it contracts, but also to borrow as much as $1 million to build facilities on their own farms for the right to grow the company's chickens, with merely a one-flock, 7-week guarantee of payment. And the payment itself often represents a negative return on investment. To anyone hearing this, it would sound like one of the worst investments possible, and anyone would be foolish to fall into such a deal. But the growers that get sucked into the systems are not stupid, far from it. For a poultry grower, the cycle begins with deception about the income stream a grower will enjoy if they build the expensive chicken houses and sign the contract. But the rosy claims of income are never put into writing, so there's no way to enforce the promises. The contracts themselves are quite another story. But once a grower bites the hook and goes deep into debt, they start a cycle of debt burden from which it is very difficult to escape. The attention of USDA and DOJ that you all are giving to this issue today is quite historic. And I applaud both agencies for hosting this discussion and for asking the right questions. But this process will be meaningless unless it ushers in an era of aggressive enforcement of both the Packers and Stockyards Act as well as the DOJ antitrust authorities to restore competition and fairness to the poultry sector. Though not perfect, these statutes are very strong, and the failure to enforce them by your predecessors has been nothing short of shameless. In closing, it's important to mention that the growers who are speaking here today do so at their own risk, and you've heard a lot about that. The threat of retaliation for a grower speaking out publicly is well documented, and even in the last 48 hours, we've had growers who've been threatened not to attend this meeting and not to speak out. So for every grower here today, there are many others who have stayed home for fear of retaliation, and that is more than just a communication problem. So I strongly urge both agencies to do everything in your power to protect those growers here today from retaliation and to take the aggressive enforcement action to bring some balance of market power to the poultry sector. Thanks.
Hey, I'm B.J. Hyde. Just wanted to touch on how we get paid.
We get paid by a feed conversion, the amount of feed it takes to get the birds to a certain weight. The problem with that is the feed gets manipulated a lot. For example, during the wintertime, a lot of times they'll put this corn mash in it instead of feed grain that they get out of the whiskey mills, instead of corn that, you know, should be in it. And I mean, we have no control on that whatsoever. It just absolutely, the feed conversion is where they want it. I mean, we have nothing to say about it. I also want to touch on some of these upgrades that they make you do. They also want you to use certain vendors and such as that. They won't accept anybody else, and kind of manipulate us that way too. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Omer Holcomb. I live in South Marshall County, and I want two things I want to talk to you about. One is the political ramifications that are used in chickens, and the other is a little anecdote that happened to me recently. Since I've been doing this for 17 years, chickens has been used in politics. The first time was in the 90s when the steel imports from Russia were protectionist trades were put on there, and several shiploads of chickens had to turn around and come home from Russia. And because somebody's protecting one industry, the farming industry takes it. And recently, there was protection put on tires from China. And China turned around the chicken and stopped it. So our industry is being used as if you want, a political football, and it's a $2 billion industry in Alabama. And I doubt if the tire industry in Alabama is a $2 billion, but it's being used that way. The second is a little anecdote that happened to me 2 weeks ago yesterday. As I had my chicken, these growers will relate to this. I had my feed up, chickens all ready. The time came, the catchers all showed up, and there we sat because there was a bomb threat at both processing plants. So we sat there for about 6 hours. And I'm talking to my field rep, who's really been good to me. She said, okay, they'll just give you average play plus 20%. I said, okay, what's our options? Well, you can wait another 6 or 7 hours. They'll come back at 1 o'clock in the morning. By then, my birds will have been off feed 18 to 20 hours before they pick them up, and needs another 6 hours before they process them. Or I said, we can go in there and lower all the equipment, see if we can get some feed out here, because I was totally out of feed, and then we can raise it all up and then process them. Okay, we'll just catch them at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's what we both decided. Well, I called a few days later. Well, what did they decide to do? You competed with everybody else, just like that. They lied to me, just straight to my face. I had to compete with them. And that wasn't quite fair. Nobody on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Friday had to wait for bomb threats to clear out. Now, I can live with that, but I don't like to be lied to. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to get to address this forum. I thank God for America, and I thank God for being born American, and I just praise God that I'll die as an American. I was born in a little house on a farm in 1950, delivered by a midwife. I don't know how old I was before I ever seen my first doctor. I lived on a farm all my life. All my ancestors were farmers. And we go back before the Civil War. Some of my ancestors was here before the white man got here. In 1997, there was a farm came up for sale, a 105-acre farm close to my mother and daddy's homestead there. And I wanted that 105 acres so bad, but I couldn't figure out a way to buy it. I had a pretty nice little home and 20 acres down at Rainsville, Alabama. And this company named Cook Poultry moved into the area and announced they were building a new poultry breeder hatchery and all that kind of stuff. And they were wanting people to, growers, wanting new growers sign contracts and build houses. I talked to my banker and I talked to my wife, and my banker said, yeah, we can go with you on it. That's what you want to do. So in 1998, we started the loan process. She and I sold everything we had, took our savings, we invested probably $150,000 to $175,000 of our money. We borrowed $600,000 from the bank that was guaranteed by the USDA, and that guarantee was had an insurance premium on it that I paid thousands of dollars for that guarantee. Okay. In a few years into my contract with Cook Poultry, they delivered a new set of hens to my farm. Later on that week, they came in with a new contract, and they said, Mr. Goolsby, we want you to sign this new contract. And I said, well, we've got a contract. No, we need you to sign this new one. This is in 2002. And I had a contract that was still in effect. I had a brand new set of hens in these houses that was the top of the line, the best set of hen houses in the area. And I said, well, I don't understand. I don't see why that you want me to sign a new contract when we're under contract with you now. Well, that's just the way it is. We want you to sign this new contract. I said, well, I think I'll just go with the one I've got. And like Mr. Wooten earlier in the day had said, I'm from the same county he's from. There's 5 different integrators in that area up there. You'd think there'd be a lot of competition. I had the best set of houses in the country. I told them I'll just go with this set of hens, and I'll see if I can find me a contract with another integrator. They said, no, you can't do that. You either sign this contract or we're going to come pick these hens up. Now, these hens is already on the farm. Done been there a week or two. And I said, well, you can't do that. We've got a contract. You signed it and I signed it, and it's a legal binding contract. You can't do that. If you don't sign this new contract, we're going to pick them hens up. We'll be here tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock to pick them up. The next morning at 6 o'clock, that was on a Wednesday, I was sitting in the driveway, and when they pulled in, I said, you need to turn around and go back because you're not getting these hens. I've got a contract with you, and it's a legal binding contract, and I'm going to hold you to it. You're not getting these chickens. And so they left, and they went back. On Thursday, they had 9 lawyers in the judge's office in the DeKalb County Courthouse behind closed doors, and they got Circuit Judge Randall Cole to issue them a writ of seizure notice against me without my knowledge, without my representation, without any opportunity for me to give my side to the judge, to show him my contract or anything. He issued them a writ of seizure. He sent a copy to the district attorney's office. He sent a copy to the sheriff's office on Friday. I didn't know the first thing about it. Monday morning, about daylight, a deputy knocked on my door, and I'd done been up since about 3:30 because you got to get up early and go feed your chickens, make sure everything's going. So I was sitting there drinking some coffee. They hand me a writ of seizure, and they say, Tony, the judge has ordered us to come out here and see that the chicken company gets those hens out of your houses. I said, how can he do that? I haven't been notified. I haven't had a hearing. I've got a contract. How can he do that? Well, we're just doing our job. Well, okay. They go to the chicken houses, and I get in my truck, and I go down there. there's things that needs to be done when you're going to catch chickens. You've got to get your waterers up and stuff like that. And I had read every word of the writ of the seizure, and it didn't say anything about me not going to the chicken houses. It just said I wasn't to interfere with them catching them.
Sure,
I go down there and I raise my waterers, and I try to get my equipment ready, and the deputies come in. I come out of the chicken houses there, and they walk up to me and say, "What are you doing down here?" I said, "I'm trying to take care of my equipment. I've got $500,000 in." And they said, "Well, you're not supposed to be here." And so I said, "Well, all right, I'll go home." Well, they had the cars pulled in behind my truck and had me blocked. And they said, "No, you're going to stay here till the chief deputy and the investigator gets up here." I said, "No, if you'll just move your cars, I'll go to the house and get out of your way." "No, you're going to stay here." I hadn't broke any law. I hadn't threatened anybody, anything. So I get in my truck. It's cold weather. I just had an accident about a month before and broke my back, broke all my ribs, busted my skull. I was just nearly a dead man, barely could walk. Sitting in my truck with the heater on, and the other police come up, and they jerked the door open and dragged me out of my truck and downed me and handcuffed me and throwed me in a police car and carried me to jail. Kept me in jail all day, all night. Didn't book me, didn't fingerprint me or nothing till the next morning about 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning. They came and got me and fingerprinted me and charged me with interference with a government operation, put a $500 bond, and released me on my own recognizance, told me I could call my wife to come get me. I went home and I took me a shower and I drank some coffee, made a few phone calls, and I went to Fort Payne, went to my lawyer's office and gave her $5,000 to start defending me on them arresting me and everything. Went to the district attorney's office, he wouldn't talk to me. Went to the judge's office, he wouldn't talk to me. Went to the sheriff's office, he wouldn't talk to me. I go back home, I get on the phone and I call a man that was here earlier today. I wished he was still here, Mr. Ron Sparks, the Commissioner of Agriculture. And he knows me and I know him. And I told him what had happened, and he said, "Tony, this was Tuesday about dinner time, a little after dinner." He said, "Tony, I'll be there the first thing tomorrow morning, and we're going to check into this, and we're going to do something about this."
Sir, if you could sum up.
Tomorrow morning never came. I called 2 or 3 days later. They let me talk to his assistant. His assistant said, "Mr. Goolsby, I assure you we're looking into this. You will hear from us." That was in 2002, and I've never heard from them. The poultry company sued me. Cook Foods sued me and San Rosa Farm for $4.4 million for forcing them into taking such a drastic action. We went to court, and the jury awarded me a verdict just like that. The judge threw the verdict out and ruled in the chicken company's favor. I appealed it down to the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court throwed it out, ruled in the chicken company's favor. But there was one legal point that I had that they couldn't back up on. If a jury gave me a verdict, a favorable verdict, I had the right to come back to county court in DeKalb County and start all over again. And so we did that. Cook finally settled with us. We had sold most of our farm, sold our chicken houses to keep our home. We had to sell just nearly everything we had so we could have a home to live in. So that's what Cook Poultry done to me. That's a personal, all these is personal stories that's been told today, and every one of them's true. every word that's been said today is true. This antitrust thing, the Attorney General, the USDA, you've got the power. But these lobbyists from these integrators and these other big, huge conglomerates that are buying the legislation and buying the actions that's
We have some other
going
people
on.
who need to talk. Can we have to go on to our next panel? If you could.
I'm proud to be an American. You know, I love this country, but we need our government to step up for us and quit working for the lobbyists in Washington and down here in Montgomery and start working for the people. Our Constitution says we the people. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'm sorry for my emotions. I apologize. Thank you so much.
I think for the remaining 4 folks, if you want to go ahead and give your comments, and then we'll go to the next panel. And then we'll pick it up with more comments after that. So thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Gary Kushner, and I serve as General Counsel to the National Chicken Council, which is the National Trade Association representing a lot of those bad guys that we've just heard about. I guess this is one of those days where timing is everything. In fact, I had hesitated to rise to the microphone during today's sessions. Believe it or not, I felt it important that the many fine people who left their farms, traveled long distances to come and share their grievances deserve to have that opportunity. And it's hard not to be moved by the passion with which they tell their personal stories. But I felt it important, particularly hearing Mr. Goolsbee talk about personal stories, to offer the perspective of a lawyer, at least, who represents the integrated poultry industry. And I only want to make one point, and it is just one point, and it's a legal point, because that's what these workshops largely are about. And that is that I don't know the facts of any of the specific allegations that we've heard today. And it may well be that there are contracts that are unfair, that there are contracts of adhesion, as a lawyer would call them, that there are contracts that have been breached. That may well be the case. But I've yet to hear anything all day other than the word competition that links those contracts and those grievances that these fine people have shared with us to anti-competitive conduct. And certainly you folks at GIPSA and at Department of Justice are aware that the law is well settled. 8 federal circuit courts have made very clear that in order to bring a case under the Packers and Stockyards Act alleging unfair or unjustly discriminatory or deceptive practices, there must be a showing of adverse effect on competition. That's not to say there are no remedies for ill will or for a particular personal experience that may not have been handled properly, that may be unjust, that may represent a breach of contract. We have a long and large body of contract law, well settled in common law and in many states, that provide an ample remedy. And where there is true and demonstrated anti-competitive activity, there is the Packers and Stockyards Act, as well as the number of laws that Assistant Attorney General Varney touched upon earlier today. So I just wanted to make that clear, that it's not to belittle any of the stories that were told today. They are heartfelt and heartwarming, but to just make clear what the purpose, as I understand it, of these workshops has been, and that is to discuss competition and the laws under which competition is regulated in the United States. Thank you very much.
I'm Donald Walker from Asheville, Alabama. I'd like to take this time to talk about something that's very dear to me. Valerie helped me with this comment last night, but Miss Valerie, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to shoot from the I've grown up in the poultry business. I've been in it since '90 on my own. But it's time that things change, not just here in Alabama. We've got people all over the southeast here that's hurting. And it's time that something happened. Some way, somehow, things has got to change, or the third world's going to feed us. This box lunch we got out here for $7.50 may cost us $20 10 years down the road if something's not changed, people. Young people's not wanting to get into chicken growing, and I've got 2 children, and I wouldn't advise either one of them to do it. They've seen what it's like. They don't know. They don't want it. Mother and daddy's having to deal with it, so they don't want any part of it. But again, I'm just thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I appreciate this time.
Thank you.
My name is Hildy Stuffy, and I'm here today representing Farm Aid, which is a national nonprofit organization working with family farmers to stay on their land and to thrive. At Farm Aid, we hear from family farmers every day. We've operated a 1-800 hotline since our beginning in 1985, and last year we had just under 1,000 contacts. What we're hearing from poultry growers has us deeply worried. Nobody knows more about the problems of concentration in the poultry sector than family farmers, but you may notice a smaller turnout at this workshop and smaller lines than at other hearings you hold this year. Family farmers are fearful of retaliation from integrators if they comment, and for very good reason. We've heard troubling stories about what happens when a farmer speaks out against unfair, one-sided, and deceptive contracts. Many of the same stories you're hearing today. Farmers are provided with poor quality feed or sick chicks that die within days. Poultry companies halt or delay the delivery of new birds. Farmers are required to make expensive upgrades to their barns without fair compensation, or their contracts are suddenly dropped altogether. The lack of antitrust enforcement in recent decades has been responsible for the misguided trajectory and limited bounds of our current food system. The result has been a severely concentrated marketplace in which power and profit are limited to a few at the expense of countless hardworking family farmers who ask nothing more than a level playing field. We regret that recent administrations have turned a blind eye to the very real threats of corporate concentration to family farm livelihoods, rural economies, and our national food security. We applaud this administration's historic commitment to address issues of competition and concentration in agriculture, and we urge you to make full use of the experience and wisdom of the family farmers you're hearing from today. They are very courageous to be here, speaking out against a contracting system that is not just unfair, but plain wrong. Please don't let them down. Thank you.
My name is Terry Tucker. I'm proud to say that I am a fourth-generation farmer in the community that I live in, and I hope it don't end with me. As far as my family is concerned, I've been in the poultry business for 18 years. We did quite well in the poultry business, but you know, I also know the different stories, and I know the manipulations that go on as well in the poultry business. I saw my neighbors, lose their farms. I've saw them, both spouses have to go out and take other jobs just to make their payments. And, as Americans, we pride ourselves with equality. We'll send our children, our daughters, our sons, our husbands, our wives off to war to fight for this equality. And this ranking system that we have in the poultry industry is ridiculous. You heard a whole different things that's going on in this ranking system, from bird delivery to feed and several others. And I want to address two of those. I want to address the bird delivery. One of the things is the fact that, we don't have any control over that. If I raise straight run birds, okay, and that means that's a mixture between male and female birds. Well, if I get more male birds on my farm and Joe down the road, gets more females, guess who's going to, if he's a halfway decent poultry farmer and sees after his chickens, I'm going to beat him out. Because I got the more dominant bird. I got the male bird. Now how fair is that? Feed delivery. I want to address that just for a minute. If I run out of feed during the course of a grow out, and let's just say, I'm going to throw a number out there. Let's say I'm out of feed for 48 hours. Well, let's say Joe down the road, he's not out of feed. We're settling together under this so-called fair ranking system. That's what the integrators say. We know better. Guess who's going to beat me out? Joe's going to do it. We really need your help from the Justice Department and the Department of Agriculture to look into this ranking system because it's killing us. Yeah, I've made money in the poultry business. I can't stand here and tell you that I haven't, but I've also lost money due to this ranking system. So please, we need your help. Thank you.
I think we're going to go ahead and just take one more comment, and then we'll go to the next panel, and we'll get through that panel, and then we'll pick up with more comments again. So if there's still people that would like to provide comments, we'll allow more time to do that later on today.
Thank you for taking my comments. My name is Brant Caney. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and thank you to Farm Aid who informed me about these hearings. My reason for coming down from Nashville today is because I feel I have to step off topic. I'm not a chicken farmer. I'm a chicken eater. I believe the health care crisis will not be solved until we address ag policy and consumer preferences. David Kessler, the former head of the FDA, says in his book, The End of Overeating, it took 30 years to challenge and change the social stigma of cigarette smoking. He estimates that 1/4 of the population, 75 million Americans or more, are addicted to food. We need to change this epidemic of obesity. It is national security. In this past decade, life expectancy dropped. The processed food part of our Western diet is shortening lives. According to Michael Pollan, food used to be 18% of household expenses. It is now at 8 or 9%, thank God. But at what price is this food so cheap? Health care and health insurance in the same period went from 10 to 18%. Again, national security. The medical term for the loss of farmers is called a bleed out. 1 million farmers is not safe. 2 million farmers is safer. We need to grow more farmers. If the trend continues to urbanization, let's bring production to urban areas. Finally, on the subject of justice, criminal, not civil penalties should be applied to all polluters, and this should reach international law. Thank you.